Hello everyone, I'm going to start this one a little bit early. Hopefully it'll kick in. Let's see. I'm waiting for the green to change and it's not doing it. Fuck. Wait a minute, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I'm starting this a little bit early because I figured what the hell. I could see it said 3 watching, and it's now 2. But I wanted to start this a little bit early because I'm back from smoking and I'm ready to get rolling on the aspect of women that have run for president before Hillary Clinton. And in this, I'll also be talking about the health issues with Hillary Clinton that basically we can be glad she didn't win the presidential election. And I'll go into that later in this video. But the first thing I want to draw to your attention is this woman. You may not have seen her before. She was around long before any of us were even thought of. Her name is Victoria Woodhull, and she ran for president, or wanted to. She had tried to back in 1872. Victoria Woodhull was the first woman to run for president of the United States as a candidate for the Equal Rights Party. She was a suffrage champion for equal rights, as her party name suggests, and an advocate for free love, which she meant as the freedom for people to marry, divorce, and bear children without government interference. And this was back in 1872. But Woodhull's groundbreaking run for presidency is even more impressive when its full context is considered. She ran for president in a time when women didn't even have legal right to vote. Woodhull was a pioneer of suffrage. She believed and publicly argued that women actually already had the legitimate right to vote under the privileges and immunities clause of the Constitution. She presented this argument before the House Judiciary Committee in 1871, but the Supreme Court ruled against her interpretation of the Constitution. Women who showed up to the polls to vote for any party in 1872 election were arrested. Shocking, isn't it? Victoria Woodhull ran for president nearly 50 years before the 19th Amendment allowed women to vote in the presidential elections. Throughout histories, though historians can't agree on whether her name actually appeared on nationwide ballots or whether she received any votes, they concur that her run was historic. Not only was she the first woman to seek the office, but her running mate, Frederick Douglass, was the first African American ever nominated for vice president. Talk about groundbreaking. Back in 1872. Her presidential run suffered a fatal blow when she was arrested on an obscenities charge for writing an article about an adulterous love affair between Henry Woodward Beecher, a powerful minister, and a parishioner just days before the election. Woodhull's campaign was met with widespread derision, but it's unclear if she could have taken office, even if she had won. She was only 34 at the time of the election. And I know it does state in the Constitution you have to be 35. Woodhull tried again to run for president in 1884 and in 1892, gaining more traction in 92 when she was nominated for the presidential candidate by the National Women's Suffrage's nominating committee. Martina Stoll was nominated to Woodhull's ticket as the convention's candidate for vice president. Then there is Belva, Belva, Anne Lockwood in 1884. It was reported that Lockwood received approximately 4,000 votes in the election, though she believed this number was significantly lower than the true number of votes cast by her supporters in 1885. In 1885, she petitioned Congress to investigate voter fraud committed against her, stating many votes for her were either not counted or thrown in the wastebasket for being false votes. But nothing came of her petition. She ran for president in 1888 with less fanfare and success. And then the other one I have highlighted is Gracie Allen in 1940. Gracie Allen's campaign for presidency might have had more in common with Trump's than Clinton's. A comedian and film and television star, Gracie rose to fame as one of the comedy duos Burns and Allen, playing the comic foil to her straight man husband, George Burns. Over 100,000 people came out to see Allen on her mock campaign trail. She received an official endorsement from Harvard University. At their pick for presidency, she dropped out of the race before the election, but received thousands of write-in votes on election day, even against political heavyweights and the eventual winner, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Those are things that I thought were very interesting, especially the first one that had, not only was it a woman running for president, but her running mate was a black man. That just blew me away when I saw that. But what I also came across in my research on this went into the health issues of Hillary Clinton. And this could possibly explain what happened with Benghazi and the weird behavior that has been observed with Hillary Clinton. And before I get this started, I am going to have it that I switch over now. While I have it with this, I won't see any of the comments and so forth, but be that as it may, this is a medical doctor. I will let him explain what he is about to.
Welcome to vidzed.com. My name is Ted Noel. I'm a medical doctor with 36 years of experience, but I am not Hillary Clinton's treating physician. So I can't claim that what I'm about to tell you is a conclusive diagnosis. What I can do is exactly what the CIA does. I look at the public record and then I put it together to see if there's a single story that explains all of the odd things we see with Hillary and arrive at an answer as to what's going on medically with her. On August 14, Joe Biggs of InfoWars reported that Secret Service agents had approached him with information that Hillary Clinton was suffering from Parkinson's disease. They've had to take steps to accommodate her disease. They also indicated that they have known she's had Parkinson's disease for an extended period. It has become so severe that they are seriously concerned about her ability to perform the duties of president if she is elected. This is a highly unusual circumstance because Secret Service agents are cleared top secret and are prohibited from disclosing this sort of protected information. The only obvious reason for them to speak to a reporter is that they see Hillary Clinton as an imminent threat to national security because of her disease. Days after InfoWars, Julian Assange of WikiLeaks released Hillary Clinton emails where she directs State Department staff to research new drugs to treat Parkinson's disease. Let's connect the dots. On January 31, 2005, Hillary Clinton fainted during a speech. Secret Service agents kept her from injuring herself as she fell. Her public explanation was that she was ill and dehydrated. She left the stage to remove an outer jacket rather than removing it on stage. Oddly, she did not seek medical attention, unless she received it off stage before returning. June 18, 2009, Hillary Clinton broke her elbow, quote, on her way to the White House, close quote. Again, we do not have video. But this is also a bit odd since she has had 24/7 Secret Service protection for 24 years. She would have to fall at a distance from them with no warning, or they would have broken her fall as they did in 2005. Early in December 2012, Hillary Clinton fell at home, struck her head, and suffered a concussion. Like the 2005 fall, the public explanation was dehydration and fainting. But again, this is very odd. To strike your head requires a complete loss of protective reflexes. Being wobbly from dehydration won't do this. At this point, let's look at the Secret Service Parkinson's disease story. If Hillary has Parkinson's disease, all three falls make sense. In 2005, she could have felt herself starting to have problems and went off stage to get an apomorphine shot for a quick fix. Unfortunately, it didn't work and she fell. The 2009 fall is stranger, but this is well explained by a Parkinson's freeze event. As one Parkinson's sufferer put it, "1 minute I'm upright and sailing along. The next, the asphalt is rushing up at me. The alarms sound, the adrenaline spikes, the needles jump into the red, we're going down. Shields up, shields up." But there are no shields. 180 pounds of vulnerable flesh and bone crashes to the earth. Hillary probably froze and then fell. Either she recovered enough to avoid major injury as she was falling, or she was simply lucky. Then came 2012 and the concussion. This time the freeze was unlucky. No one was there to catch her fall, and the damage was major. Now let's be clear here. This is not a firm diagnosis. I am a doctor, but I am not her treating physician. But everything so far fits the theory. Her, quote, medical clearance letter, close quote, is a typical response managed by a politician who lies about everything. She has not released any records, whatever, from the hospitals where she was treated. In other words, Hillary Clinton is asking us to take her word for it. A month after the fall, Hillary's closest aide, Huma Abedin, said in an email that Hillary was often confused. That's not a big surprise because Hillary had a bad concussion and was recovering from a closed head injury. The Fresnel glasses Hillary wore for a while aren't a big deal either, since they were helping with the double vision she had after the concussion. But we should remember that our theory is that the concussion is the result of a bigger neurological problem, not the cause of a continuing problem. Post-concussion syndromes generally recover. A post-concussion syndrome doesn't explain the other things we see. Early in 2016, Hillary's problems started to be really obvious. Videos of odd physical movements and brain freezes became common. This is consistent with progression of Parkinson's disease into its later and more troublesome stages. The first picture to surface is Hillary being helped up a set of porch steps in February. Once again, if she froze while climbing the steps, the people right next to her could catch her and keep her from injury. Suddenly, we start seeing lots of video evidence. In April, Hillary Clinton spent a large part of an appearance nodding her head. To most people, that was just odd. But if we think about Parkinson's disease, it's obvious. This is a head nodding tremor. She was simply present as discussion went on around her, and the tremor showed up as she was at rest. The same tremor showed up when Bernie Sanders endorsed her for president. One website counted over 400 nods then. Before we go further, it's necessary to fill in some medical background. Parkinson's disease causes tremors at rest. That is, when a hand is simply resting, the tremor can take over, but using the hand in a purposeful act will suppress the tremor. Other things that Parkinson's sufferers often do is to place their hands in unnatural and even painful positions. One very common feature is placing the middle finger above the back of the index finger rather than leaving it in line with the others. On May 2, Hillary Clinton is standing on a stage without a lectern. As she speaks, she uses two techniques to hide tremors in her hands. First, she keeps her hands busy. Second, when she's not using her free hand, she presses it to her chest, thus making any tremor almost invisible. The problem with this strategy is that it's not perfect. In the beginning, Hillary's right hand behaves normally as she waves it around to emphasize her speech. Then she presses it to her chest briefly. Then she gestures again with her right hand. But this time, her Parkinson's disease takes over, and it's likely she isn't even aware of it. Hillary's right hand assumes a frankly painful position, which includes her middle finger above her index finger. Professionals who care for Parkinson's patients recognize this as a common Parkinson's disease hand posture. This is one of the most famous of Hillary's odd events. One of the reporters there, Lisa Lehrer, has written that it was nothing important, but the video tells a different story. Several reporters shouted questions at the same time. Immediately, Hillary's head started to bob in an exaggerated manner, slowed down, and then repeated bobbing. After that, she ad-libbed, "You've got to try the iced chai." Several websites have called this a seizure. It's not. It's another Parkinson's disease problem, but this time it's from the treatment, not the disease. It's an example of Parkinson's disease levodopa-induced dyskinesia, or PD-LID. There's only one basic medicine that's effective in managing Parkinson's disease. Levodopa replaces dopamine the brain loses as cells in the substantia nigra, one of the coordination centers in the brain, die. Levodopa generally works well, but not all of the time. A freeze can happen randomly with a visual stimulus or in a moment of stress. In this case, multiple questions at the same time created stress, and when Hillary froze, PD-LID took over. PD-LID causes odd motions such as Hillary's exaggerated head movements. It doesn't cause loss of consciousness, so she was able to recover verbally. PD-LID happens to every Parkinson's disease sufferer who has been on levodopa for more than 10 years. It's a side effect of the drug, and there is no effective treatment. This is why Hillary Clinton refuses to do news conferences. The stress of multiple questions at once would likely set off multiple PD-LID and freezing events. She would instantly become unelectable. All of us are familiar with Michael J. Fox. On the left, we see him in Back to the Future. On the right, we see him off his meds, showing the full fury of Parkinson's disease. Notice his eyes. This bug-eyed look is common in Parkinson's disease. At the Democratic National Convention during the balloon drop, we saw an astonishing scene. Hillary saw something directly ahead. A normal startle reaction would lock her in that direction, but that's not what happens. Instead, her head jerks hard left, then up. Her eyes pull right, and her head follows. Then her eyes reverse to the left, and her head follows again. All through this, her mouth is unnaturally wide open, and she has bug eyes. Every element of this is common in Parkinson's disease. When this was shown to Parkinson's disease patients and caregivers, there was no doubt. This is probably a freeze where PD-LID caused an oculogyric crisis. A week or so later, Hillary declared that she had, quote, short-circuited, closed quote, a false response to Chris Wallace of Fox News. That's a very strange comment, since the term short circuit is not in slang usage. But it is used to describe what's going on in the brain of Parkinson's patients. It's likely that Hillary heard it in a visit to her doctor and simply repeated it uncritically, not realizing that she was revealing another view into her Parkinson's disease.
Yep.
Keep talking, you handle it, we're not going anywhere.
Okay, here we are.
Keep talking.
Okay, we'll keep talking.
On August 6, Hillary is talking at a rally. A disturbance in the crowd catches her eye and she freezes. An aide comes to her and rubs her back while saying, "It's okay, we're still here, keep talking." When she comes out of the freeze, she says, "It's okay, we're not going anywhere, we'll keep talking." When a Parkinson's sufferer is in a freeze, brain function slows way down. That limits the options when the freeze breaks. So Hillary echoes what she heard during the freeze as a way to get her brain back up to speed. It's another common Parkinson's event. This is one of many coughing fits we see. Hillary doesn't have bronchitis. Rather, this is evidence of a swallowing disorder, which is common in Parkinson's disease. When Parkinson's sufferers develop swallowing disorders, they get saliva or food on their vocal cords. All of us have gotten a drop down the wrong way and know how persistent the cough can be. As this progresses, fluids go down into the lungs and ultimately cause pneumonia. This aspiration pneumonia is the most common cause of death in Parkinson's disease. In 2011, Hillary and Huma Abedin discussed the possibility that Hillary might have decision fatigue. Hillary called the description of decision fatigue as spooky descriptive. Fatigue is a common problem in Parkinson's disease and is also a common side effect of levodopa. What does this all mean? First, Hillary Clinton has advanced Parkinson's disease. Even with the best treatment in the world, she can't hide her tremors, weakness, and PD-LID. At this stage of things, she has very limited stamina. This explains why she does so few campaign appearances. We don't see her climbing steps, and she's incapable of handling sudden visual stimuli or stress. This is why she won't do press conferences. Multiple reporters shouting questions are likely to cause more bizarre tremors and dyskinesia. Second, Hillary Clinton is incapable of handling the daily stresses of the presidency. She would have frequent freezes and off states. The 3 a.m. phone call would simply go unanswered. By the way, is that what happened during the Benghazi attack? Third, as Parkinson's disease advances, it often produces dementia. Our president must always be strong and clear-headed. If she is not doing the job, then who will? Will it be Huma Abedin, who has been associated with Muslim causes and directly involved in the Clinton Foundation corruption? Will it be Bill Clinton, who is at the center of the Clinton Foundation corruption? Remember, President Woodrow Wilson had a stroke in 1919 and was largely incapacitated. The only people with regular contact were his wife and his physician. It appears that they may have acted in his name, but without proper authority. Or will Vice President Tim Kaine take over? Of course, then the Clintons would lose their juice. Let's sum this up. The video evidence is solid. Hillary Clinton, in spite of the best efforts of her handlers and doctors, shows strong evidence of having advanced Parkinson's disease. This debilitating condition makes her medically unfit for any position of responsibility. Since the presidency is one of the most responsible positions in the world, she is totally unfit for it. Let us not confuse medical and political issues here. I'm firmly opposed to Hillary Clinton on political and moral grounds, but this discussion has been about her medical condition. Hillary has known that she has advanced Parkinson's disease since at least 2012. She also knows that it makes her unable to do the job required of a president. It is also likely that the Democratic National Committee is aware of this, yet Hillary and all of her cronies have moved forward with her candidacy. This tells us that Hillary and the DNC simply do not care about America. If they did, they would never have Hillary on any ballot. It must be just like the Clinton Foundation. As long as the Clintons are where the deals are made, that's all they care about. Any deal that crosses their palm creates a personal profit. And where are more deals made than the office of the president? There's far too much on the line for Hillary's medical records to stay hidden. The public has a right to know about her health before the 3 a.m. phone call goes to voicemail. Thank you.
That is something that I felt, if you haven't seen it, that it was very important that you do. Because it's something that I'll grab that URL and put that in the description bar, and hopefully the video itself is not screwing up, because that is something that I felt needed to be seen. Okay. Now, okay. It is back to that, so I will enlarge this again, and we're back to the way things pretty much. I would be curious as to what your thoughts are regarding the video and all of that, because it's something that, wait a minute, there we go. Benz, you cracked me up. Oh my, Benz, you do crack me up. I don't know about her breaking her dildo in her poo-poo hole, but you definitely crack me up. It was something that when I saw the information on, I didn't know all about Parkinson's disease when I started watching that, but especially after seeing the side-by-side comparison with Michael J. Fox when he was in Back to the Future, and then when he was with Parkinson's disease and not taking his medication, the bug-eyed look, that definitely fit what has been observed with Hillary Clinton, among other things, with her. And it raises the question, because I've heard this term for more presidents than just the aspect of her, the aspect of they have handlers. I had first heard that with Lewis Black, where he was going to be doing a comedy bit for George Bush, and his handlers wanted to hear his routine so that they would be sure that the president could handle it. And he was like, what is he, like a bear? Is he just going to go off and just start biting Democrats? the idea that these people have handlers is bizarre to me. But I guess that is basically coming with the political office or the position and so forth, that you have people that, I'm sure Donald Trump has handlers that pretty much try to keep his madness under control, but he's just, to use the term, he's just nuts by pure air. I don't think he has any medical issue like Parkinson's disease, but he does seem to have a Twitter problem. And I would say his handlers should monitor his Twitter access at like 3 in the morning, especially with his Confifi stuff, because it just, it gives comedians something to laugh at. And I don't think overall that it's all that dangerous. Not near what a president with Parkinson's disease would be. Let's be clear on that. I didn't like Hillary Clinton for other reasons. It didn't have anything to do with the aspect of medically being unfit. But the fact that she is obviously medically unfit and has been since 2012, that does raise questions regarding the Benghazi issue. Was that a matter of basically a 3 o'clock phone call, 3 in the morning phone call, just going to voicemail because she was pretty much incapacitated because of the disease? And if that is the case, then she's unfit to hold any type of public office. Because frankly speaking, she can't be available at a moment's notice. And that brings in the issue of, there are times with those offices that you will have phone calls come in at 3 in the morning or odd hours of the night that you have to be able to take a phone call, because, like, especially with the aspect of Kim Jong-un and his madness. Could you imagine if she would have been president and Rocket Man, as Trump has called him, would have launched a nuclear weapon at 3 in the morning and she's freaking out of it? I mean, what the hell? Right. I agree, Free Spirit. I don't like her, but I don't want her to have some illness. Well, it's not a matter of whether we would want her to have it or not. She has it. That, from the video that I showed you, and the video evidence that the guy had said he's a doctor. He's a doctor of 35 years. He's just not her physician. And he showed things in that video, and it is linked in the description bar below if you didn't see that video, where it goes into her head bobbing and eyes wide and all of that shit, that is classic Parkinson's disease. That there are so many of the symptoms that have been, the things that has been mentioned in the media and laughed at, that, but we really didn't have an explanation or any idea that this was an indication of a serious health problem. But the fact of the matter is, not only has she known about this from at least 2012, the Democratic Party has known about it. And despite knowing about it, it has been proven that they rigged the Democratic election to have Bernie Sanders lose and have Hillary Clinton as the one going against Trump. I am honestly not sure. If they would have had Bernie Sanders against Trump, I don't know if Trump would have won. And, okay, your dad's an RN and he thinks that too. Well, it's based on what that doctor showed in that video. It's undeniable. Because point for point, the different things, the head bobbing and so forth, that is everything fits Parkinson's disease. It's not about pretty much wanting to bash somebody for political reasons. It's simply looking at, here is the video evidence, and here is what someone that is suffering from Parkinson's disease will display. And the two are identical. And when you have that with somebody that is even trying to have any kind of public office, it is irresponsible. And it does show that a blatant disregard for the country. Because it is all about them and pushing their agenda and their foundation and so forth. It really, it's not a good idea to have a country, because the aspect of, if she would have a Parkinson's episode as a president, who would be in charge? Would we have 4 more years of Bill Clinton? I think I think that was after he was president. I don't think it was during. Because I know the aspect of I had heard Ronald Reagan had dementia and Alzheimer's, but I'm not sure if that was when he was president. I don't know. Because if that was when he was president, that would mean most likely, under the best of circumstances, that George Bush Sr. would have been the one that was primarily running the country. Because he was the VP. But at that point, it would be, if the president has something like that, dementia or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, then who's in charge is really what it comes down to, which feeds into a lot of the, to use the term, conspiracy theorists' ideas that the president's just a figurehead anyway, that it's really being run by other people, like the aspect of like the Bilderberger group or whatnot. I have my doubts regarding those conspiracy theories, but in light of things like this, would it be possible that there would be others? I can't rule it out in that regard, but it raises a bit broader questions than what we're being told in the media. And I'm sure that things like the video that I showed at the beginning of this would not be mentioned on mainstream media, that they would do everything in their power to ignore those issues. The aspect of the Illuminati, I am skeptical, because what that would get into is the aspect of like Freemasons and so forth, and I don't see where, to use the term, the Illuminati would exist now. Because all evidence regarding that is that the Illuminati was an organization founded by, I think it was, some dude back a couple hundred years ago. I mean, yeah, it fell apart shortly thereafter. Andrew Woodhull or something. The thing is, the idea that there is some kind of, as like the X-Files had mentioned with Cancer Man, the men in dark suits and dark rooms smoking and concocting plans and so forth, I don't buy it. Because it's just one, I don't see evidence to support it. But yeah, I get that the aspect of, there are those that do believe the Illuminati type of shit. But there are also the religious that will say they believe their Bible and so forth and that they want their Jesus to come back. But yet, according to... Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Benz. But they'll say they want their Jesus and so forth to come back, but yet the aspect of a new world order, they oppose that at every turn. Yet, according to their Bible, there has to be a new world order type of thing, a one world government, before these other things can happen. So if they believe their Bible and that bullshit, wouldn't they be going and pushing for a new world order, not opposing it? It makes no sense. Unless they believe their Bible, but they don't really want that shit to happen, because they don't really want their Jesus to come back, because they know they're as corrupt as the day is long. So it raises questions in my mind as to basically what is the agenda. And that is where you would think, at least I would, if I would be one that would believe the Bible and so forth, the Illuminati and all of that shit, I would be looking at it as necessary. That, yeah, it has to happen. Pretty much, why oppose something that is, according to your belief system, what has to occur before whatever you want will come to pass? But the aspect of, and if any presidential or politician has health problems and so forth, I think that should be, they should have more of a concern for the country than for their own, to use the term, monetary gain or whatnot. Because I can't imagine, I've heard that presidents only make like $400,000 a year. So in that regard, I would say, I don't know if Trump is still doing his I won't take a salary type of idea, but I think we all know he doesn't need the money. So in that regard, okay, fine. But there's also the aspect of Hillary with her frickin' foundation. They don't need the money either. But the problem with a lot of these politicians is they're greedy bastards. That even though they don't need the money, they are greedy bastards. Yeah. You would think that Christians would be the ones pushing for a one world government, but from everything that I've seen with them, especially from like Alex Jones, who is a wacko Christian, they're every time, and basically every time you turn around, they're boo-hooing, hand-wringing, and so forth about this New World Order and all that happy jazz. It's almost like they want to try and block it or prevent it or slow it up as much as possible, which really makes no sense when you compare that with the narrative of the Bible. Because one would think, at least I would think, that they would be the ones pushing for it and saying, yeah, go, do it. But that's not what we see. Just like they talk about this mark of the beast and all that happy shit. And yet, they are clearly oblivious to the fact that that's also written in their stupid Bible, that this would come to pass, that people would be getting this mark. But Christian dominionists want a one world government under biblical law to await the second. Yeah, that would make sense. Why wouldn't all Christians want that? Because that's what's in their stupid Bible that has to happen. I just don't get this idea of somebody claiming to believe the stupid book and yet doing everything in their power to oppose what is in their stupid book. Because if they think it was written by a God, well, the aspect of a microchip, I've heard that. Well, and the aspect of a one world government, in a sense, I'm not totally opposed to it. It would be a matter of, I would be looking at it from the aspect of, would it improve things or would it make things worse? Because in the aspect, like, Mikao Kaku had talked about the aspect, that we're a type 0 society, and when we would learn to harness the power of and utilize all the resources of the planet type of thing, that we would reach like class 1, and then when we would like harness the power of the sun, we would be at like a class 2 society. And the free spirit, you thought the mark of the beast was Jesus? No, supposedly, according to the Revelation bullshit, the mark of the beast is basically it's a precursor. It has to happen before this Jesus could return. That it is basically anyone that takes this mark of the beast would be damned type of thing. But the problem with it being a microchip is it is said to be in the right hand or forehead, but in the symbolic sense, what you do with your hands is you work. You work with your hands. And in your head is where your brain is, and that's where the thinking is done. So it would be a matter of, if you believe X, or you do things to bring about X, that you would be having this mark in your hand or forehead. It's a crock of shit, all in all. And Cindy Chick, aren't we just shy about 3 countries from a one world government bank, Rothschilds? in that regard, with the Rothschilds, I think that is about accurate. I know Iran and at least North Korea and China might be the ones that are not connected to it, but the aspect of a one world banking aspect, that I don't think is part of it, but it's definitely part of what the Rothschilds or Bilderbergers or those rich fucking bastards, what they're interested in, because that basically they're all about, they're, like I said, they're greedy bastards. Even though they have more money than brains, their only interest is in getting more money for whatever fucking reason. It just, I just kind of, with a lot of it, I shake my head, because it's, what the hell are we going to do? I don't take the cynical approach George Carlin did, but I'm a realist. And I don't see a way out of the situation and the state we're in with the world. I don't see an outcome that is positive for us, or that is indicative of people surviving. Because with lunatics like Rocket Man that seem to have a death wish, and Trump, who seems to be very interested in having a pissing contest with Rocket Man, it's almost as if the rest of us are just pawns in their game. And frankly, I don't like being someone's pawn, but in this aspect, it's what the hell can I do about it? It's one I don't appear, at least from what my vantage point, that I have any say over what these dipshits are doing. They sure as hell ain't asking my opinion. Because personally, I mean, regarding the North Korea shit, I would be looking at it as, okay, could we target wherever this Kim Jong-un lives in North Korea and just bomb the fuck out of that building? Kill that little bastard and take our chances with hopefully the next dipshit to go in and take his place isn't as fucking crazy? Because, yeah, it is scary. And I don't see, like I said, I don't see a way out of this. It seems things are getting progressively worse and worse. But I do agree with the way George Carlin put it, that when you're born into this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show. And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat. And with things like the Kardashians and all that other stupid shit in Hollywood, I have to say he wasn't wrong. We do seem to have been given a front row seat to the lunacy. I just wish that there would be a way to pretty much get some sense. Is everybody, I mean, it makes me wonder, is a prerequisite for being a politician being a crazy bastard? Because it just seems that they're batshit fucking crazy. But then if being in politics means you have to believe in religion, well then I guess you have to have some level of lunacy in order to be in there. Because to go back to like the Illuminati thing, even though I don't buy that, I know from when I was in the Army, one of the guys in my unit was in the Masons. He had the Masonic ring type of shit. And he had told me straight up the aspect of I couldn't be a Mason. Simply couldn't. Because I don't believe in God. In anything like I'm atheist. And in order to be part of their fucking group, you have to believe in some degree of wacky woo-woo bullshit. And that is... It's disturbing. Because, to me, what that shows is... In order to be part of these groups, you can't be engaged in critical thinking. And what this world needs, more than anything... are those that are going to be not only using critical thinking, but clear, rational, sane thinking. Not people that are just looking to, how can I push my religious agenda? But I had found it interesting, the aspect of the women that ran for president. And I would be curious, Free Spirit, what you thought. Did you hear about the one at the start of this? The woman that ran for president in 1872, that her running mate was a black man? That to me is, that just blows me away. Because that indicates that pretty much there was someone black running for president back when slavery was still going on in this country. Well, the aspect of separation of church and state, absolutely. But it doesn't seem to be in effect with government. There are very few, to use the term atheists, in politics. Very few. Like one person that he didn't run for president this last time, but I would be damn tempted, is with Jesse Ventura. If he would have run, that would have gotten my attention. Yeah, unfortunately, with this government, the separation of church and state doesn't exist. Because, especially with the mainstream media, because they're all about trying to push the God shit on people, be it with Christmas and the frickin' nativity bullshit, or any of that nonsense, or even the Ten Commandments at the courthouses, even though the obvious fact that they ignore with that those laws only pertain to Jews, that's part of the Jewish law. It has nothing to do with those of us that aren't Jewish. Oh, Free Spirit, you missed the beginning. That was something that I started off, and the first woman to run for president, I'll recap for you, it was Victoria Woodhull, and her running mate, she was an advocate for free love, which she meant as the freedom for people to marry, divorce, and bear children without government interference. And her running mate was a black man named Frederick Douglass. And he was the first African American ever nominated for vice president. That blew me away. And the information to that will be in the description bar below as well. That would be the one that as the 12 women that ran for president, you can read all about the things with her, because in my notes I didn't include everything that is on that page because there's a great deal of information, and some of the women that are listed there, from what I had seen, it didn't seem like they ran for president but ran for other political office. And even being in Congress and so forth back before the at the at the 19th century with the 1800s, it would have still been a major step for women. But, and even in the early 1900s with like 1940 and so forth, the aspect of women in government at all would have been shocking. It's something that I really feel that it would be a good thing. It would have been a good thing if it had happened. But what I also wonder, and just looking at it in a sense with the aspect of hindsight, if there would have been a black president or African American president or vice president in 1872, what would that have done for the aspect of the Civil War? The aspect of slavery? It really would have me questioning just how much would, in a sense, the bar and all of that have been pushed back in, even before the 1900s came, with like a woman president and a black man vice president. That just talk about pissing in people's Cheerios. But it's something that I think is fascinating. But I also think it shows the dishonesty of our culture and the media to try and act and claim that Hillary Clinton was the first woman to run for president, which is not even close. Because there has been, and I know at this last election, there was the independent candidate, I think her name was Jill Stein. And I don't think that was the first time she'd run in the independent party. But there have been a lot of women that have tried to run for president before her, and even the aspect of vice president with like Sarah Palin. A woman as a vice president would even be a major step. But it's never happened in that regard, because there was, back in the 80s, I had heard about, I think it was Walter Mondale's running mate was a woman. So, but that would have been for vice president, and even still, it would still have been a major achievement. And it's something that I feel the feminists and social justice warriors of today are oblivious to history. And that is, I think that's telling on where they're at and what they're trying to push for, of just how much they're unaware that these things are nothing new. Like I said, I wasn't aware that it went back all the way to 1872, but I was certain that Hillary Clinton wasn't the first to try to run for president as a female. But with the aspect of Hillary Clinton and so forth, I would say the fact that her husband was president for 8 years should have disqualified her. Yeah, Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferrara. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Tim. 1984. Yep. And it's ironic that the year of that perfectly fits with George Orwell, 1984. Even though what he had wrote in 1984 was actually more along the lines of 2000s, but he was a couple decades early. But yeah, bizarre coincidence. It's like, I don't know how many of you are heavy metal fans, but I am. And back in around I think it was late 80s, early 90s, Judas Priest came out with the song Electric Eye. And Electric Eye was very, almost prophetic for just how, because it really fits after 2000, the society that we're in, that pretty much having an electric eye watching you all the time. Yeah, it's definitely with Orwell close enough that to be disturbing. Especially when you consider that for any of us to try and imagine what basically the future could be and to get even close, it does make me wonder about what Gene Roddenberry had said with Star Trek, that he put where other writers of that time were having shows that were centering around 2000, he looked and was projecting further into the future, like the 23rd or 24th century, that he was putting it as that it would take a few hundred years after the 2000s for us to reach that point. And it makes me wonder, I won't be around to see it, but could we have any type of, to use the term, space travel, or be exploring space around the 24th century? Because I'm a big Star Trek fan, but I don't recall exactly when they had said in that series about the Third World War happened. I tend to think that we've already passed the point where they had said that the Third World War started and so forth. But it's really interesting, shows like that. More so than, because it's like Star Wars, that's just classic myth storytelling. That doesn't have anything to do with, because I don't think there was no time frame given with Star Wars. The eugenics war, yes. Yeah, but I don't remember the year that they gave for the eugenics wars. It was something that it dealt with Space Seed. That was Khan, wasn't it? Because Khan was one that saw himself as a superior race and a superior human and all that happy shit. Genetically engineered. Oh, the 90s. Yeah, we're way past the 90s being the start of a third world war, because that was around, well, 91 was when I graduated high school. To give you an idea just how old of a bastard I am. But yeah, I find different things like that interesting. Yeah, the Botany Bay ship. Yeah, I got into Star Trek when I was very young. And because I remember I would watch like episodes and so forth of the original with my dad. And initially, when the Next Generation started, I wasn't really keen on it because I was stuck with, I don't like change. I don't like new things. But it took a few years of that running that I was like, all right, I'll check this out. And the character of Q I liked when I actually sat down and watched the first Encounter at Farpoint. The character of Q definitely appealed to me. But the aspect of Khan with the Botany Bay, yeah, that I find it interesting. And what I also find interesting is the fact that medically, well, they had in the original series, the way Kirk accessed the computer, and I don't have any 3.5 discs, but they were plastic discs that were about yay wide, yay high, that he would put in to access the computer, and it fits the 3.5 disc. Now, things like the flip phone and so forth, those were invented to mimic Star Trek, so I can't really say that they were pioneers or foresaw anything. No. That's a matter of, it was a popular series, and the cell phone trying to mirror the flip phone being the communicator. But I do find it interesting that medically we have the nanites. That we can actually, in medicine now, introduce nanites into someone's body to help heal them. And you watch The Next Generation with your mom. Yeah. I think of the Star Trek series, The Next Generation is by far my favorite. I didn't really care for Deep Space Nine, and I wasn't interested in Voyager at all until Seven of Nine showed up. I've always been a boob man. And that, her rack, yeah, that definitely got my attention. But I think they brought her in because their ratings and so forth were so low. They looked at it as, well, what the fuck, can't hurt. And sure as hell, it didn't hurt. Because that, for at least Voyager, that got my attention. But I thought it was interesting that, yeah, 7 of 9 was divine. Oh, yeah. But I thought it was interesting for most of The Next Generation, Maria Sirtis, her outfit was low cut. And I mean, they really pushed what could be shown. Because there was that one episode in The Next Generation that she's wearing a nightgown to some degree, but it's just about see-through. And it's just one of, holy fuck, they really pushed. Not that I would not object to anything like that. Shit, hell no. But they really pushed the envelope, be it with the aspect of, like, in the original series, the first interracial kiss. I don't know if that was the first on televised interracial kiss, but I know in Deep Space Nine they had two females kiss. They really, at different points in the story with their storylines, would really push the envelope of what society could handle. Yes. Oh yeah, Gates McFadden was very sexy. Oh, your husband likes that? So you know the one that I was talking about with, yeah. It just, there's things like that. I have no problem with, as you can tell, the female body. It's just, to me, I see it as a work of art. I see it as beautiful. I don't see it as something to be upset about or be offended at or any of that. No. But yeah, it's just the different things in society. I think the changes, like the aspect of a female president or things of that, or even having someone black or African American in president and so forth, and vice president, those changes are inevitable. That all of the aspects that people want to hand wring and say, in a sense, should it happen, like I would, if we keep from killing ourselves, I would say the time would come when we'll have our first gay president. And possibly like our first transgender president. And that will probably cause just as much of a brouhaha as anything else. The biggest thing that disturbs me that I've heard on the female body is art. I mean, it's, but I would also, by the same token, I could see where a woman would say the male body can be. But personally, I would look at it as, that may be, but I would say not all male bodies type of thing. Because the aspect of man boobs, I'm sorry. No. I can't see, like with the shape that I'm in, yeah, not a work of art. It's a work of something, but not art. It just, that's where I think, like the calendar that I have behind me and so forth, that in some ways I think it can give an unhealthy type of body image, that if somebody would try to be thinking they have to look like that, that's not necessarily healthy. Although it sure looks damn healthy to me, but oh yeah, the Caitlyn Jenner for breasts. Oh, none of the Kardashians. They should be disqualified forever. Just because of drama. Oh, jeez. But the aspect of like a male calendar or whatnot, I would see it as no different. Uh, not as a woman's body, yeah. There are, I would say, see the aspect, I think what is put in the aspect of what a model looks like and so forth, I think in some ways it can be good, but as long as a person, male or female, looks at it and recognizes that their body type might not fit with like the size 0 in that aspect, because there are women that are, their body structure is just bigger. Then there are women that have taken steroids, like the Joni Lawler, who was China in pro wrestling, that she also had very manly features to begin with. But someone like that, their body type is just, their frame is too big to fit within the aspect of like what's on the wall. So I think in that regard, people need to, yeah, it's as long as the, to use the term, that the body is healthy. The aspect of seeing ribs, it's not necessarily, yeah, and I don't really, looking at it, you can't really see her ribs and so forth. Yes, Marilyn Monroe was beautiful. And she was, basically, that was a pioneering with Hugh Hefner, because you just didn't have the, to use the term, pin-up type of thing before that. Hugh Hefner really got things, he pushed the envelope on his own, in his own right. But then there were others that came along, like Larry Flynn and Hustler, that honestly, I don't care for the Hustler type of pictures as much, because I don't see that as, to use the term, art. I see that more as pushing the aspect of smut. Because it is, if anything could be, to use the term, objectifying, it would be the Hustler type of style. Because the way the pictures were taken, from the way I'm looking at it, that's the difference. Is it's not about celebrating the beauty of women, but just, I don't know, a cruder, more, and that's where, personally, I'm not interested in the crude, basically, look at my guts type of thing. I'm a boob man. That's just, and I think most guys are. But it's something that by the same token, I think there's nothing wrong with like a woman looking at, be it either the Chippendales or the whatever Aussies, the Thunder from Down Under, whatnot. It's something that I don't think would be necessarily objectifying a man. It would be just as much a celebration and admiration of the male body. That, granted, while I have no interest in that myself, that's not to say that I don't have the brains to realize that if I were a woman, that I might be interested, and I probably would be as interested in seeing a male's body as I am in seeing a female's. So in that regard, I see it as basically, what's wrong with that for women? It just, I am very much for equal treatment. And it's one, with like my YouTube channel, one of the things that I would, and I think I always have, pushed the aspect of basically not letting a two-dimensional image interfere with a relationship, the aspect of somebody being jealous of a picture or whatnot. I don't understand that mindset. I've had girlfriends in the past that had those issues, but they weren't around me very long, because it was just one of, I would look at them and be, I can't grasp where that thought is coming from. So I don't understand it, that even though, like, I don't look like a Chippendale or whatnot, even though as much as I might like to, I don't. And it's something that, if it would really, to use the term, really bother me type of thing, then I would do the work and so forth to get myself in the shape to do that. But I know in order to do that, I would have to give up soda. I know it. And it's a matter of, basically it comes down to how much would I really want to. Yeah, and it's just, how much would I really want to look like that? Well, put it this way. Which would I want more? To look like that or to drink this? Well, I think that answers that. No, it's just a matter of, I have a sweet tooth. And it's not just soda. And ever since I was a kid, I've had a big love for chocolate. And unfortunately, in our society, at least in the United States, the things that taste good are also the things that are fattening. And it does seem that that's how the food is, to use the term, manufactured. Because one of the things that's common in stuff like this, and just about every drink anymore, is this high fructose corn syrup, which is basically sugar. It's all, because when I was in the Army, and at basic for those 2 months, there was no soda. For the time I was at basic, and when I went to my AIT, it was actually a bit of, amusing to watch the soldiers that you could tell. The store we went to when we first got leave after basic, we wiped them out of candy. Because, I mean, picture it, about 50 guys going into a convenience store. They had a bank account, we had money. Because we were being paid the whole time we were at basic and we weren't spending shit. And then we're at AIT and we get leave and we go to a convenience store. Just about, I think every guy, sodas, candy bars, you name it, snacks left and right. And I don't think there was even one of us that refrained. We all went frickin' nuts with the aspect of finally we can have whatever the hell we want. And yeah, when we got basically back and so forth, they made sure they smoked the living shit out of us. But the aspect of, and in that, I can definitely say, if you, like, with the aspect of, for as much as I like this, if I would want to lose weight, the first thing I would do is drop this and drink water. That would be number one. Because this is just, it's a killer for any type of healthy body. But the aspect of candy and so forth, I would say eat whatever you want and just, not right after you eat, but give yourself maybe a half hour to an hour and then either go for a run, push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks. The high fructose corn syrup is, it is in so much. Not only soda, but it's in Powerade, and I like Powerade, and that when I was unloading trucks, Powerade was my drink of choice because it had the flavor of that water doesn't have, and but yes, it had the high fructose corn syrup, but that was it. But yeah, unsweetened teas. Oh, you dropped about 10. Yeah. Without the high fructose corn syrup, you will drop weight. It just happened. I mean, there is something in it. Though one sergeant in my unit, when I was in the Guard, he called things like this sugar water. And I won't deny that. But it just, because the aspect of a killer aspect to working out was when I started smoking. Because when I was at basic, if I would have been smart, I'd have stayed quit. Because I went 2 months without a cigarette. The chemical addiction was broken. I didn't need a cigarette type of thing. But when I got to the airport, my dumb ass picked up a pack of cigarettes. And between Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Fort Bliss, Texas, it was by the time I reached the military base, I had gone through close to a pack of cigarettes, and I was frickin' high. It was, you can't really get, to use the term, quote unquote, high from nicotine, but the aspect of the head rush and all that, I had it. It was, and it was just, it was the biggest mistake that I could have made because my run went from, I could do the 2-mile run without smoking. I could do it in about 15, 16 minutes. When I was smoking, half hour. My time literally doubled. Smoking changes pretty much the dynamics with your lung capacity. That it is as bad as soda. That's where if you're anyone listening to this, if you're interested in getting into shape type of thing, yeah, there are a few things that pretty much would need to be cut out. Soda is pretty much a given. And the teas, I'm not so sure. I don't know how much. They would have the high fructose corn syrup as well, I would assume. Tim, if I'm wrong in that, you can correct me. But because I've never been a tea person. The only kind of tea that I like, and it's not really tea, is Long Island iced tea. Not really iced tea, but it sure tastes like it. But the aspect of like wanting to get into shape, it would be a matter of also, if you smoke, you quitting smoking. Because otherwise, if you want to run, good luck if you're a smoker. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm just going to say it's going to be harder. A lot harder. No, okay. Well, with the brewed teas, it might not have, I doubt it would have the high fructose corn syrup because of being brewed, because I don't think that would be in the tea bag. But there are things my girlfriend likes like sweet tea and so forth, but I've never really stopped it. I don't really read labels except for in the aspect of does it have caffeine, because that's one of the things I've found over the years. There's soda that it doesn't have caffeine and I think it tastes like shit, just like the sugar-free soda. If I would have to, and I'll be honest with you guys, if it wouldn't be for basically regular Coke, all there would be the diet or like low cal or no cal soda, I wouldn't drink soda. It's got to be this or nothing as far as soda goes. Because it's like I'm not diabetic. And the last time I was checked, I wasn't even close. Which is ironic because my girlfriend, who doesn't take in near the caffeine and sweets that I do, when we were tested, she was borderline. She was borderline diabetic, and I wasn't even close. And I can tell you guys, I do have, other than my other addiction, chocolate milk, but one that I always have, to use the term, my stash of chocolate. It's just one I have to have a stash somewhere. It's just, I've loved chocolate ever since I was a little kid. Hell, I learned to bake when I was a kid because of my sweet tooth. It was one, I would want desserts and my mom wouldn't always be interested in making them, so it was one, as a kid, I was like, all right, I want to learn to bake. Because it was one, I'd make my own cookies, I'd make my own, you name it. that's, I think, why when I started working, where I first started working was in restaurants. Because it was just one of shit kind of baking I fell into because of having a sweet tooth and learning to cook. Okay. But it's something that I think people, in large part, I think the big problem in America is the lack of moderation. That what we have are some people that their main diet is like Burger King, fast food, McDonald's, Wendy's, and yes, if you're going to have your diet be fast food, junk food, things like this, you're going to gain weight, and you're going to gain weight in a big way. And Tim, I could never drink diet sodas. Yeah. I never got a reaction from the artificial sweeteners. I just didn't like the taste. And aspartame, yeah. That, I've heard bad things about aspartame. And the one giving you a burning sensation on your tongue. Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely avoid that. But what is Ascuflame? The hell's that in? The hell has Ascuflame? Or what the hell is Ascu? Alright. Guys are going to make me look things up. Because, Tim, I'll be honest with you, I had never seen that Ascuflame before, but it's okay. Even though I don't really care for Wikipedia as a source, also known as Ascuflame K, is the symbol for potassium, or ACE-K, is a calorie-free sugar substitute, artificial sweetener, often marketed under trade names Sonnet and Sweet One. In the European Union, it is known under the E number. Activation code E950. It was discovered accidentally in 1967 by German chemist Karl Klaus. Oh, okay. And the Wikipedia page actually shows the, I guess, makeup of that. Well, isn't that frickin' interesting? But from what you had said there, that it gave you a burning sensation on your tongue. Okay, that you found, ask you, it was in Lipton lemonade tea. And okay. Yeah, I mean, if you like tea as much as I like soda, I would say try a different company. A different kind of tea, because that definitely would not be something that I would say should be. That's a warning sign when you have like a burning sensation anywhere, that there is a bit of a problem. And aspartame, I don't think it ever gave me any headaches, but I know if I don't drink soda, I get headaches. Basically the caffeine headache of withdrawing from caffeine, that would give me a headache. I'd be irritable, tired, and so forth. Now, when I did do the interview with Dr. Skip on the drugs, and I mentioned to him about pretty much every day I take a sleeping pill, he had asked me how much of this I drink. And the truth of the matter is, in a day, this was especially true when I was doing security guard, I can easily go through a 2-liter a day. To give you an idea of just how much I like my soda. But, well, let's see, Tim. That's why I drink unsweetened tea. Yeah. Oh, okay. Teas from vending machines have the high fructose corn syrup or aspartame. Yeah. All right, well, take care, Free Spirit, and I am going to be wrapping this up anyway, but it's something that when I do a live show, I'm not totally committed to the topic in mind, especially after I go through everything that I've thought of with that. Then it can pretty much go off into whatever direction it goes. But, alright, well, take care, Free Spirit, and yeah, Tim, I agree the aspect of, especially from what I've read with and what you've said about with this AscuFlame, just that term, anything with flame in it, I'm sorry, I'm going to avoid anything, if it has flame in it, I'm not taking it. I will not put it in my mouth if it has flame. That's where, if they would change the name of this to Coca Flame, I'd have to say I'll take a pass. Just because the aspect of I'm not putting flame in my mouth. Splenda is safe. But, like I was mentioning with the aspect of Dr. Skip, when I told him about taking sleeping pills, I just take one to go to sleep. He had mentioned about cutting back on this. And if I cut back on this, to see if I still need this. It's an interesting question. Because I know when I was in the Army, didn't need this to go to sleep. That was one, well, when I was in basic and so forth, they made damn sure if you couldn't sleep, there was something wrong with you. But because it's just a matter of going through the physical exertion. But to the aspect of when I was at basic, I went in at just under 200 pounds, and when I came out of AIT, I was about 180. I was the thinnest that I've been in a long time. And it was just pretty much, it was bare bones type of. I wasn't, to use the term skin and bones, but I was a lot more solid and I didn't have the padding that I do now. But yeah, it's something that if anybody's interested in losing weight, one of the big things to drop is high fructose corn syrup. I would say even with the aspect of sweets and so forth, that this doesn't matter as much. That if you really want to have that, eat it and then just like do push-ups, sit-ups, flutter kicks, mountain climbers. Oh my word. You want to kill your legs and so forth and work out your legs without weights? Mountain climbers. What XGF was, oh, your ex-girlfriend was type 1 diabetic. Ever affected her levels as per sleeping? Oh, Ambien. Oh, that's good stuff. Just can't get that over the counter though. The thing, I had tried Ambien years ago, and when my girlfriend had a prescription of that, and I took one, we had a radiator that was beside our bed. I had dancing radiators. It was, whoo, that was good stuff. But yeah, I don't really have side effects from these. Now, when I do, most of the over-the-counter are 25 milligram of the sleeping aid. This is 50. So when I do take this, I just take one. And that's pretty much all I need. And the next day, I'm not groggy or anything. In fact, yesterday, I only slept for about 5 hours. And then my body just woke up. I probably won't be up as late tonight as I was last night because... And just to give you guys an idea, I was doing security guard work, and I up and quit that job after my second paycheck was not what I was expecting, because I had been doing 40-hour weeks, and my first paycheck was, they had screwed up my hours, and I only got paid for 15 and a half when I had done over 31. And my boss had told me that if you don't get it before, you'll have it with your next check. I got my check, and it wasn't there. Plus, the hours that they listed were 61. And I was like fuck. And I told my girlfriend at that point, it was one of, as far as going in, fuck that. If they're not going to pay me, I'm not going in. And when I called and the supervisor had said, I don't have anyone else, I was like, I don't give a fuck. Because as far as jobs go, if a job is not going to pay, I'm not going to stay. I'm not coming in. Because the only reason I go to a job is to get a paycheck. And if they're going to fuck with my money, I'm going to be, see ya. I ain't going to be there. Because they're fucking with my only motivation for going in. It's one way or another, I'll get what I'm owed from that company. But it's something that I would say, don't work for U.S. securities. The aspect of, I can see why they can't keep people. Because when you do that, don't expect people to stay. It's extremely unprofessional. But I won't be doing any more videos tonight, but Feel free, for those that are listening live, thank you. And I hope you enjoyed the program. For those that are watching this when it isn't live, feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Later, everyone.